Healing doesn't make you softer. It makes you sharper though. Okay, and a lot of times when we think about healing, we think that it has made us weaker, but it just made you less tolerant. Okay, I talked about being angry and how angry is usually um, an alarm system for what we are going through. Well, as you heal, anger is a part of that healing process. As you heal, you learn to tolerate less BS. Okay. I know for me in my personal life, as I navigate now, I think about it. I'm like, hey, do I deserve this? Do I desire this? Do I want to develop a tolerance for this? And in some instances, a lot of instances, the answer is no, I don't. So I exit. Okay? And when we heal, there are certain things we are not as aligned with or even attracted to. I know a lot of times people say, well, I keep attracting this same kind of pattern, or I keep attracting these same people. No, we attract everything. What are you giving your attention to and why? As you heal, you start to learn what doesn't work anymore. And this is not about being or having a self-inflated ego. I know a lot of times people weaponize how healed they are and that they don't need to do anything or show up for anybody else because I'm healing. But the funny thing about it, again, is a person who is genuinely healing, they still have a certain level of respect that they move with. So to heal yourself doesn't mean that you hurt others in the process actively. Some people will be hurt by you having a certain level of self-respect and standards. The reason why is because now the cost of entry has increased, as it should. Okay. Think about it this way. Let's say you have this baby and they are in the dining room and there's just a bunch of china that's been in your family for God knows how long, and they're there. You see this baby, you see this china. Are you going to give that baby that china? You probably say no. Well, why not? Well, because it's expensive. I had it for a long time and I can't really replace this. And that's a baby, so it's careless. It won't be able to hold it. And if it breaks, I'm going to be pissed. All right? What does it look like to treat yourself with that same kind of awareness? It's like, hey, I recognize in some spaces I have been mishandled, or I have the high potential to be mishandled. And I know that if I am mishandled, there are certain pieces or fragments that fall away from me that I can't necessarily put back together the same way that they used to be. However, a lot of times we continue to step in these spaces. Okay? And who is that for? All right? One of the things I realized, so for example, if you stop eating sugar for like 30 days, for example, everything after that, sugar won't taste as satisfying. Your body won't desire it. If anything, it'll kind of reject it. And it could be the same thing that you used to eat. I used to have this all the time. Now I can't stand the sight of it. And it's not necessarily a rejection of the thing. It's more of, hey, this just doesn't feel good in my body anymore. So I can't not only eat that, but there's a lot of things I can't consume anymore. The same process applies to as you heal. It's not always a judgment of other people like I'm better than you. It's just that, hey, there are certain things I require now, but I'm also willing to give myself. And that's the difference between expectations and standards. A lot of times people walk around with glamorized expectations, okay, not standards. Because when we do have standards, genuine standards, that means that we can meet them ourselves. It means that we don't demand other people to meet these standards. We recognize where this person is and we allow them to exist in the confines that are the healthiest so they don't break the china. Okay? When you are healing, you move through life with a different sense of awareness, self-respect, but you're also a little bit more proactive and preemptive. Right? If I always know, for example, that when I call a friend or I call a parent, they're not the most supportive. And every time I hang up that phone, I'm upset again. I share good news with this person and they didn't seem to care. Or I keep coming back to this relationship and they continue to do the same thing. To be healed means that, hey, I understand the severity of what I've experienced with these people, right? I know that in these spaces I'm not supported and I'm always frustrated. Doesn't mean I have to cut this person off. Instead, what it means is I handle information with them differently. If I know that my parents are not the most supportive about what I do and what my pursuit is, well, I stop sharing that safe information with them because I realize it's delicate. I realize it's fragile. So I don't bring that there. I take the china from that baby. Okay. If I realize that there's a continuous pattern in terms of how this person that I had a relationship with previously, how they show up, well, I stop showing up to that space because I realize, well, not much has changed. And I don't demand that you be different because I recognize that I'm not stuck in this relationship with you. I'm not stuck in a relationship with anybody. That's an active choice. And one indicator of how healed you are or how much you are working on your healing is how often you get upset about a person doing the same thing over and over again. Because the moment we say out loud, well, this person just keeps letting me down, they keep not showing up, or they keep doing that thing, that means you are doing the same things too. The only way somebody can disappoint us consistently is if they have an invite to do so. When you are healing, that means you communicate a little bit healthier. That also means that you recognize that all space has the capacity for honest communication. That means you recognize that you may not be communicating properly. Okay? Healing doesn't mean you necessarily soften. It doesn't mean you become weak. It means you become more receptive to what you deserve and what you desire, and also your willingness to put in the work to get there. That's what healing is. Healing doesn't necessarily demand of other people. And also something I want you to realize, a lot of times people get frustrated, right? I've had clients say to me, they're like, I've been doing all this healing work. I'm doing all this healing work and these situations keep popping up. I keep having this situation with these different people. And I remind them, the thing about when we are working on our own personal development, that doesn't translate or transfer to other people. Sometimes we can be so caught up, we can be so self-centered when we think that, okay, now that I healed, the world changes. The world changes, which means all these other people are healing. In my subconscious mind, for some reason, I think that because I've healed, everybody else around me has upgraded. But that's not always the case. Right? The world doesn't change, your worldview does. And now, instead of stepping into these spaces with the expectation that everybody is going to be different, you recognize that maybe I don't spend as much time here. Yeah, I'm going to keep interacting with people. I'm going to keep interacting with my parents. I'm going to keep interacting with that family member. Okay? But I get to interact with them differently because I realize that they have not really changed. And I desire to. I desire to have a different experience. So therefore, I create that for myself. That's what healing is. Healing is responsibility. Healing is consistency. Healing is accountability. All right? And healing is also sensitivity. A lot of what you used to be able to sit through won't feel as comfortable. That chair you sit in will not be as comfortable for you. When we are healing, we do not necessarily function as well in dysfunction or chaos. We may step into it, but it won't last as long. And that's a true indicator. Okay. So I challenge you to think about it this way. If you're in the healing process and you are trying to work on yourself, I want you to take a look at what are you frustrated about right now? And if you're frustrated with yourself, why? Okay. What parts of yourself have you continued to abandon and not really show up for? What things have you pushed aside or downplayed or not pursued out of fear? Because sometimes healing will require you to be a little bit scared as you continue to show up. Because sometimes the healthiest parts of who you are, the healthiest relationships that you desire, are on the other side of that. Okay? So let's heal for real versus trying to do it for the gram. All right? Think about that. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.